Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome to another edition of the League One Lowdown, where I speak to fans, podcasters, and journalists from each League One club to get the lowdown on this season. Today, I'm joined by Chris from Plymouth Live, the football reporter of 25 seasons, his 25th season this year. Chris, thank you very much for joining me. Introduce yourself. Let us know the many years of covering Plymouth, how that came about, many ups and downs covering the side.
Yeah. Pleasure to join you, Ross. Yeah, I'm about to start my 25th season covering Argyle, and as I'm sure you're all aware, being right down in the far southwest of England, that involves a lot of travelling. I in my 25 seasons, I've estimated roughly about 300,000 miles of travelling, which is, I think, further than Earth to the moon. So, if you ever want a job where you get travel, then reporting on Argyle is probably a good job to be doing. As you say, lots of ups and downs. I remember, one of the good periods for Argyle was when they were in the Championship from 2004 to 2010. And Ipswich fans may remember Argyle and Ipswich played each other throughout that period of time, had some good games between the two teams. I do remember Paul Mariner being Argyle head coach and bringing his team up to Portman Road and winning that game. And obviously quite poignant to mention Paul, considering his recent passing, and he was an absolute legend down at Argyle, started his professional career down here, and obviously went on to make his name really at Town as well. So, lots of good memories of Paul Mariner. There's been tough times as well. Argyle were in administration. They had 2 seasons where they nearly dropped out of the Football League. Thankfully now things are a lot steadier, and they're approaching their second season back in League One.
Definitely. And as you said, second season in League One under Ron Lowe. Last year finished in 18th. Probably happy position maybe for Plymouth Argyle fans. But as you said, you were close to getting the playoffs. I think there's so many teams at one stage we think, wow, who's going to get in the playoffs this time? What's your feelings going into this season? The transfers so far have been made. Big one, talking point, is James Wilson, formerly at Town. Fans were very 50-50 on him. Some fans liked him. Some fans probably think, he was just a run-of-the-mill defender. But what's your thoughts so far on the Plymouth business? Are they brought in players you feel they needed? As you said, off chat about defence. The defence wasn't great last season for Plymouth.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at last season, at the end of February, Ross, they were pushing for the playoffs. They had a real chance for the playoffs. They beat Lincoln 4-3 at home park. They got 2 goals in injury time to win that game, and Lincoln were flying high at the time. And you thought, crikey, they're on a real roll here. I think they were 9 unbeaten, and everything looked as though they could really push for the playoffs. Then they went to Northampton on the Tuesday, who were bottom of the table, got beat 2-0 at Northampton, and then it just all unravelled over the closing stages of the season. They only won 2 of the last 15. 11 of those 15 were defeats. They were conceding goals left, right and centre. They got beaten 6-0 at home by Charlton, which was, I think, the worst ever home defeat. The goals against record was horrendous in the end. I think they finished on 80 from the 46 games. It was the 3rd worst record in the Football League. And so, not surprisingly, Ryan Lowe basically ripped up the defence and has restarted now. Last season, they had a few young players from Premier League clubs on loan. A guy called Kel Watts from Newcastle, Jerome Apoko from Fulham, and Sam Woods from Crystal Palace. I think one of those in a defence might have worked, but to have 3 all at the same time was probably leaving them too inexperienced and not League One tough and League One proven. Which brings me to James Wilson, because I think Argyle and Ryan Lowe needed to find players with a bit more experience, a bit more physical presence, League One pedigree, been there, done it, got the T-shirt. Now, I've read a few reports, that James Wilson was supporters player or player of the year, so that's fantastic. Others saying, well, he's not that good and this, that and the other. I think Ryan Lowe would want James Wilson to come in and be strong, tackle, head, win the ball, chip in with a few set-piece goals, and at 32, be a leader of a completely new defence. Argyle have made 7 signings during the summer, and 5 of those have been defenders. So I think that tells you that defence and getting that right is going to be really pivotal to how Argyle do in League One this season.
And of course, we've still got a month left of the window as a recording. So any business could be happening for anyone in League One. When I'm speaking to all these fans, podcasts, and journalists, anything can happen. So trying to predict things and trying to talk about signings is very difficult. But I had to get out of the way before the season starts. But when we play I want to quickly go and talk about the games we did play against Plymouth. The one big game was the game at home park. Of course, Plymouth fans were back just a little bit, only I think 1,000. Yeah. And of course, Plymouth were running the show until the red cards. They 1-0 up, and then out of nowhere we robbed the 2-1 win. We don't play Plymouth until October, so it's going to be a while. The season's already going to be a lot of games been played, a lot of points been won.
Yeah.
But what are the key players for you? Luke Jeffcock is the one to stand out, the top goal scorer last year, scored against us, impressed me when he played against us. But what are the key players for Plymouth? Are the new signings that have been made, are they the ones as also the big standouts?
Yeah, I don't think a defender is ever necessarily going to be a standout signing, is he? And like I say, 5 of the 7 are defenders. I think re-signings was quite important, Ross, for Argyle. Danny Mayer, who was linked with Ipswich before he signed for Argyle from Bury, very good, close working relationship with Ryan Lowe from their days at Bury. And I think there's a lot of mutual trust between the two of them. Danny's a key player for Argyle. He's the number 10. The way Argyle play, he sees a lot of the ball playing as one of the number 10s behind the strikers. That's the postman delivering the letters. So the dog doesn't like that. So Danny Mayer is going to be a really key player for Argyle. You mentioned Luke Jeffcott as well. Now he's an interesting player because he got 18 goals last season, but all of those goals, Ross, came up to and including February the 6th. He scored 2 goals against Portsmouth in a 2-2 draw, and then didn't score in any of the games after that. So it really was feast to famine sort of thing for him. Reasons for that, I think maybe teams wised up to him and Argyle's style a little bit. Strikers thrive on confidence, and when he went a few games without scoring and things weren't happening, he maybe lost a little bit of confidence in front of goal. And also, it was his first full season, young lad, and I think with the amount of games condensed in the way they were because of the season starting late because of COVID, I think that the physical demands of a season caught up with him. So on paper, we had an 18-goal top scorer, and he was linked with clubs in January. But come the end of the season, I think a lot of that interest had cooled off. And I think people will be looking at Luke Jeffcott, and he'll definitely be on the radar of people. But I think the way that last season ended for them, people will say, well, hang on a minute, let's just see how he starts 21-22 season, and then get to January and then maybe see where we go with him. But he has shown that he can score goals at League One level. And I think if you get 18 over a season, that can't really be a fluke, can it? So I think with a bit more confidence, a bit more fitness, a bit more know-how, I would expect him to be a key player for Argyle because, scoring goals is the hardest thing to find for any football team, isn't it? It's not an easy task to find a striker or anyone to get that. So if you've got Luke Jeffcott and Danny Mayer, I think they're the two players that really watch out for. And another just re-signing just quickly, Ross, was Connor Grant. Really good player for Argyle. Again, Ipswich fans will know a little bit about him. Can play centre midfield, can play in the midfield holding role, can play at left wing back. Lots of options. Scored some spectacular goals. He scored 4 goals last season, and I could hardly pick between them. They were all absolute crackers. He won I think it was the League One Goal of the Month for March for a strike against Milton Keynes Dons. Excellent set-piece delivery as well. I'm sure he would have had other clubs in the summer that would have wanted to sign him. Argyle re-signed him. So with Argyle re-signing Danny Mayer and Connor Grant, Luke Jeffcott still being around, and then adding those defenders that I've referenced, the 5 defenders, including James Wilson, then I think the hope is among Ryan Lowe and the fans is that will just give them a little bit more strength than they had last season, and that can then help see them move a little bit further up the League One table this season.
Oh, love that insight. I'm sure a lot of people love that insight too. And Well, let's get into the shot in the dark moment, the prediction for next season. Still, as I said, we've still got a month left of the transfer window, but we're only 2 weeks away until the season starts, which is just crazy. We only just finished the season, it feels like. We had the Euros, Olympics start. But what are you feeling going into this season? I'm sure a bit differently because, last year it was like just stay in the division, just got been promoted back to League One. But second season in, a few good signings here and there. For yourself, at this precise moment, I'm sure reporters and fans down the leagues will be predicting soon. But for yourself at the moment, what do you reckon? It's going to be such a wide open League One this year. So many teams fighting for promotion. Some teams could be trying to fight for their lives to stay in this division as well. But for yourself at the moment, Plymouth Argyle, what do you reckon?
Well, it's a competitive league, isn't it, Ross? I mean, you look at lots of ex-Premier League clubs in the division. It looks like a few are going to have a go. I mean, when we went into COVID, everyone was saying how a club's going to survive and how are they going to do this, that and the other. Well, there seems to be an awful lot of clubs spending reasonable sums of money, even in League One, isn't it? If not in transfer fees, some of these players are not going to come cheap wages-wise. So I think Argyle are a little bit away from some of the real, big hitters in League One. I would like to think they could finish a good, solid 10th, 12th, something like that. That would be an improvement on 18th, obviously. Their aim is to be, and the chairman and the owner is a guy called Simon Hallett, who's done a fantastic job for the football club in terms of supporting it financially, but not just that, but getting the infrastructure right. So I think Argyle are well placed off the pitch to move forward. The stadium's completed now. The grandstand opened in 2020, so that's good. Everything is right off the pitch. Now, the hardest part in football is getting it right on the pitch. And I think that will take Argyle a little bit of time. But I think that they can, with a little bit of luck and fair wind, a good, solid mid-table, 10th, 12th this season, and then maybe the following season is when they can start looking to really try and force their way into the playoffs. So last season was a little bit of a learning experience for them. They started really well. As I said earlier, I think we all thought, they could push for the playoffs. And then sort of reality bit a little bit. And I think people are just a little bit wary that, League One can be a tough place. If you get on a bad run, it can be pretty unforgiving. And there's not that many soft games in League One. And I don't think there will be this season where you can think, there's a little bit of a run there we might be able to get going on. So, so I'm gonna go for a good, solid mid-table position, Ross, and then hopefully build for 22-23.
Sounds good. Of course, I've always been a big fan of Plymouth. I've always enjoyed my trips to home park, and you're always well supported down at Plymouth. And I'm sure there'll be a good amount of Plymouth fans heading to Portman Road as well. And hopefully, they'll be doing something for for Paul Mariner to remember him and everything like that.
That would be really good because he was a big legend down here. And I remember that game in 2010 when Paul came back and managed Argyle to a victory over Ipswich, and the Ipswich fans didn't seem to hold it too much against him. I remember he lost his glasses that night, and they got returned to him later on, didn't they? I think in the celebration. So that would be a good thing for Argyle and Ipswich to do, and maybe the same thing at home park. And the two clubs could get together and come up with something like that. So it'd be great to see the fans back. I mean, I was in the fortunate position, Ross, last season of going to all the games home and away. Felt very privileged to be able to do that. But as I've said to lots of people, it just felt like a season of watching Tuesday afternoon reserve games in front of 50 people. And I know everyone's said it, but the football without the fans just wasn't the same. So look forward to fans back at the grounds. Argyle are generally well supported, and Portman Road's a great ground to come to as an away fan. So I'm sure, given the opportunity, that the Argyle fans will be in good numbers, even though it's about 600-mile round trip to Portman Road from down here.
Thankfully, it's not a Tuesday night. Thankfully, it is on a Saturday. Yes. So that's always the worry when we looked at the fixtures and go, please not be Tuesday night. I know there's a few. I think we've been lucky this year for Ipswich Town supporters and reporters. We've been lucky. I don't think there's many bad Tuesday nights. I think Cheltenham is the only one, but that's early in August. So that's not too bad.
Just to give you a perspective, Ross, before you move on, you mentioned Cheltenham just quickly. Cheltenham is our local derby this season. It's 153 miles from Plymouth, and that's the closest game we've got this season. So that's our trip for Boxing Day. On Boxing Day when you play your local rival, we're playing our local rival, Cheltenham. away.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Pretty much. Well, let's talk about Town. As an outsider, sure you, as a reporter, you always look at the League One clubs going into the next season. Of course, new ownership. Paul Cook's first season, full season in charge. A lot of good business so far. A lot of League One pedigree players. A lot of Championship players been linked as well. What's your thoughts on Town's business, and is it going to be our year? Since being relegated back to League One for the first time since the 50s, we've always been the ones. Yeah, they're going to get promoted. They're going to be in the playoffs. The last 2 years under Paul Lambert, we haven't even gotten to the playoffs. But do you think this is the year for us? And I'm sure a lot off the pitch at the moment, it's a lot of excitement, but on the pitch, we've still got to wait and see what happens.
I think 3 points I would make, Ross. The first one is that if you're playing Ipswich Town and you're in League One, that is going to be one of your biggest games of the season because of the club's history and the ground and the expectation as well. And that is not easy. If you've got to do that every game, that is difficult. And so I think that's something that Ipswich are fighting against in League One. They're not the only ones. Sunderland are in exactly the same boat because of their stadium. And so it's difficult when you're a big fish in League One because everyone's going to try and raise their game. It's just the way it goes. So that is something that Ipswich have to overcome. Point 2 I'd make about Town is Paul Cook. He was the manager of Portsmouth when Portsmouth and Argyle had a real old tussle in League Two for a couple of seasons. Derek Adams was the Argyle manager, now at Bradford. Paul Cook was at Portsmouth, and there was a fantastic rivalry developed between the two teams. We're both on the south coast, but Portsmouth's 170 miles away. So again, it's not a local derby. But there was the dockyard rivalry, the naval heritage, and there was a real good rivalry between Derek Adams and Paul Cook. And we came across Paul Cook quite a few times. Argyle beat Portsmouth in the playoff semi-finals one year, then lost in the final to Wimbledon. And then the following year, Portsmouth and Argyle were both promoted, but Paul Cook's Portsmouth picked Argyle to the league title. So I've followed Paul Cook's career while he was at Portsmouth, and then since he's moved on. And I, as a journalist with some insight, but looking from outside, I think he is an excellent manager and a really good appointment for Ipswich. I think he's exactly the type of guy that can galvanise players, get the right players in, galvanise the players, create a squad, won't be scared by the challenge of being one of the big teams in the division. If you can manage Portsmouth successfully in League Two, with all the expectations they have about being a Premier League club, let alone League Two, if you can deal with that and guide them forward, then I see no reason why he can't do it at Ipswich. So I think you've got a good manager there. Good mates with Ryan Lowe as well, 2 Scousers, so they get on really well. And point 3, Joe Pigott. Again, he's a player that I've watched a lot. He was at AFC Wimbledon. Argyle and Wimbledon have played a lot over recent years. As I mentioned, Wimbledon beat Argyle at Wembley in the League Two playoff final. He's a player that was at Charlton. I think people always thought had a lot of ability, but he's really developed and grown into a proper centre forward. And Paul Cook does like a proper centre forward. He scored, I think it was about 20 odd goals, wasn't it, for Wimbledon last season in a team that, struggled. He, to me, looks an excellent addition. He looks to me like, I'm not trying to put a curse on him, but he should be a 20-goal-a-season striker in League One. So if you've got a 20-goal-a-season striker with Paul Cook and with your fans back in the ground, to me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm being kindly invited on, Ross, but the building blocks, to me, those 3 things are there for you to have a good season.
Well, hopefully. We've said that last 2 years, but now I think
don't
this is the one.
No. Season, please don't come back to me and say, what on earth are we talking about?
No. And to finish off, really, anything else you'd like to add? I'm sure the Plymouth Fixtures games are going to be interesting. Both games have been very competitive. As we said, we pretty much rob Plymouth at home park, and that will be the first game we'll be playing against Plymouth. It will be at home park in October. So what do you reckon you expect from that game?
Well, I hope as many Ipswich fans as possible can get down. I know a lot will have been to home park, and it is a trek. But it's a nice ground. It's a great part of the world. Make a weekend of it if you can. from where I'm sat, the Hoe is about a mile away. It's a beautiful place, even when the weather isn't great. Great place to come and visit, make a weekend of it, and enjoy the game. Like you say, last season at home, Danny Mayer's sending off turned the game. I think it possibly changed the outcome of the game. In fairness, in the return match up at Portman Road, Ipswich scored very early on, and honestly, the way they started the game, it could have been 3 or 4-0 after about 10, 15 minutes. So I think Argyle were lucky to get away with the result that they did. But yeah, it must be difficult to a degree in League One being Ipswich, because everyone says, oh, they've got the history and the pedigree, and people, like to see teams like Ipswich and Sunderland and those sorts of teams. So I think there'd be decent crowds, hopefully. But yeah, come down to Home Park, see what it's like. The away end's good. Recommend the pasties. Do the full Devon experience, and it's a long trip, but that's all part of being a football fan, isn't it?
Definitely. I'm looking forward to my trip to Devon, because I will be doing the double header, because I cover the women's team as well. So I'll be doing the men on the Saturday and the women on the Sunday. So I'm looking forward to my weekend in Devon in October. But Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me. And let us know in the comments down below, Plymouth Fixtures Town fans, what you think of what Chris has said. And I'll be back for another edition of the League One Lowdown very soon. Bye for now.